Assalamu alaikum once again, guys. Today we're looking at equations with pronumerals on both sides. It's covered in exercise 903, so after you look at these examples, please feel free to go over to the textbook and continue the exercise. Alright, so let's begin. So we're going to be dealing with equations that have pronumerals on both sides, and if you look here, we've got pronumerals on both sides. If we look at this one, you've got pronumerals on both sides. Same can be said for here. Same can be said for here. So in this type of situation, we need it's pretty much the same techniques as normal solving, but the focus should always start with the pronumerals. Okay? So whenever you start the question, always focus on the pronumerals first. And because of that reason, I'm going to actually highlight them straight away before we even start the question. Okay, so with the first question, the first thing I want to do is bring everything, all the pronumerals to the left side. So this A on the right side, I want to bring it over to this side. And the easiest way to do that, always look at the right side, whatever it is, you want to remove that term. So remember, this is positive A. So I need to do its inverse operations, which is minusing A from both sides. And we can see that's gone now. Okay, so as that's gone, we begin writing the next line. So 2A take away A is A plus 5 equals 7. And just write down what's remaining. And then from here, as you can see, it's a simple one-step equation that you guys are used to. We will minus the 5 from both sides. And we are left with A equals to 2. And it's as simple as that. Again, let's look here at this question. We want to bring the pronumeral from this side to this side. So remember, when there's no sign in front of a number, that means that there's a plus in front of it. We do its inverse operation, which is minusing. We minus from both sides. And we end up with 5y take away y, which is 4y. Minus 4 equals 12. We always write down what's remaining. And then from here, I want to isolate the y. So remember, don't forget from the previous lesson, we want to isolate the 4y for now because the 4 is attached to the y, so we isolate the whole thing. So we're going to get rid of this negative 4. We add 4 to both sides. That's gone. We are left with 4y equals to 16. And then the final step, we divide both sides by 4 because we're trying to isolate the y completely. And this leads into the final answer, which is y equals to 4. Okay, so hopefully there's no issues in understanding that. Let's look at the next question. So again, I've put the focus on, on the pronumerals. I want to move this negative 2m to this side. And we do the inverse of negative 2m, which is adding 2m. So we add 2m to both. This one will disappear. We now have 6m plus 2m, which is 8m. We have take away 1 equals 15. All right, so again, 8m is what we want to isolate because the 8 is attached to the m. We want to isolate the whole thing. So let's remove the negative 1 to this side. So the inverse operation of negative 1 is plus 1. That's gone. We have 8m equals to 16. And then the final step, we divide both sides by 8. And we end up with m equals to 2. And there we have it. Okay, so as you can see, it's quite easy. All right, so again, same thing. We have this 5x on this side. We want to move it to this side. So we do its inverse operation, remembering that right now there's a plus in front of it. So we minus the 5x from both sides. Now, be careful with this. This is x take away 5x, which is going to give us negative 4x. Okay, so make sure you're subtracting correctly. If you're not sure, put into a calculator. Don't forget this is 1x take away 5x. That's why we get negative 4x. But yeah, just make sure you're doing all those correct. And then over here, we're going to minus 7 from both sides because we are isolating this entire term here. So we're going to minus the 7. We end up with negative 4x equals negative 8. And then the last step, divide by -4. Okay. Putting that into the calculator will give you +2. But just so you understand, 8 divided by 4 is 2. And the two negatives become positive. So the answer therefore is 2. X equals to 2. Alright, so if you need to recap anything, just go back. We're going to be doing quite a few more questions like this, but with some more advanced techniques. But yeah, rewind, pause, do whatever you need to, go back and just revise what's going on here. Let's move on. So question 2, substitute the solution into each equation below and state whether it is correct or not. So this is the same as the previous lessons substitution, where we're checking if the answer is correct, except this time we do it to both sides. So this m equals 3 will go here and here. You're just subbing it into both sides. So let's do that. So now I'm going to take m equals 3, put it here, and we're going to see that the equation balances. So over here we get 15 take away 2, and over here we get 12 plus 1. And you can see 13 equals 13, so this balances. So therefore m equals 3 is the correct answer for this equation. So we say correct. That's all you're looking for. You're just looking for this to balance. Let's try it over here now. We're going to put q as 4. And over here we get 32. Take away 7 equals 20 plus 5. And if we look, we have 25 equals 25. So once again, this is correct as well. That means q equals 4 is the answer to this equation as well. All right, you will know when it's incorrect because this line will not balance. That's all you're looking for. Okay. And now let's quickly move on to the red questions, which I don't think really are red questions, but let's do them anyway. There might be something in there. I think these are non-integer answers. But again, focus on the pronumerals. I'll highlight it for both. Alright, so starting here, I'm going to move the 3a to that side. So we're going to subtract 3a. And we end up with 5a take away 3a, which is 2a minus 1 equals to 4. And then we're going to, we want to isolate the 2a completely. So we're going to remove this -1 to the other side. So we're going to add 1 to both sides. So we end up with 2a equals to 5. And then the final step, we divide by 2. And yes, the only difference here is that these are fractional answers. I'd prefer if you left your fractions like this in improper form, because that's what we generally do in the later years of high school. All right, then coming over to here. So again, we want to remove this -5x to this side by adding 5x. So we add 5x to both sides. Okay, that will disappear. And then we're left with 10 plus 8x equals 9. All right, now don't forget, we want to isolate the 8x. Isolating the 8x is our goal. So we're going to remove the 10 to that side. And the 10 has no sign in front of it, but we remember that that's a plus 10. So we're going to minus 10 to both sides. That disappears, and look at that, we're left with 8x equals to -1, because 9 take away 10 is -1. And then the final step, divide both sides by 8. And we are left with x equals -1 on 8. Nice and simple. All right, so with today's lesson, I wanted to cover 2 exercises because you may find exercise 903 quite easy once you get the hang of it. So I believe you should be able to also complete exercise 904 today. Worst case scenario, you can roll this over to the next lesson as well. But let's get started with the equations with grouping symbols. But I think most of you know how to do this. You're basically expanding brackets here. So whatever number is outside will multiply to the inside, and then you resume your normal your equation solving skills. So let's begin here. So we have 2 times x, 2 times 3. So that will give us 2x plus 6 equals to 4. And look at that. It is a straightforward two-step equation from here. Minus 6 from both sides. 2x equals to negative 2. And then finally, we divide both sides by 2. And we get x equals to negative 1. Alright, backtrack if you need to, but I pretty much did the same steps as we did in the last exercise. Let's look at the second example. We're going to multiply this 5 into both terms. So you get 5q take away 10 equals 10. We isolate the 5q, so we're going to add 10 to both sides. We get 5q equals to 20. And then the last step, we divide both sides by 5. And we end up with q is equal to 4. And then down here, doesn't matter which order the pronumerals are in, just do what you see in the order that you see. So 4 times 7 is 28. 4 times x is 4x, but there's a negative, so negative 4x equals 12. So no matter what, I'm trying to isolate negative 4x. We're going to remove 28. There's a plus in front, so we're going to minus 28 to get the inverse operation from both sides. And I have to write negative 4x equals to negative 16. And then we divide both sides by negative 4. You can put that in your calculator, or if you understand how to do it, the two negatives will become positive, so my final answer is positive. And then we get 16 divided by 4, which is 4. Alright, and that's going to be question 1. Let's move on to the next question, question 2. Solve each equation by first expanding the grouping symbols. All answers are in integers. Alright, so let's have a look. So sometimes you get a few more terms happening on this side. Nonetheless, you follow the BIDMAS rules, you still do the brackets first. Always do brackets first. So you get 3a plus 9 equals 2a plus 12. And from here, I'm still going to tell you to focus on the pronumerals first. We're going to bring this pronumeral to this side. So right now that's a positive 2a. We're going to minus 2a from both sides. So 3a take away 2a is 1a. Plus 9 equals 12. And then finally, we remove the 9 by minusing it from both sides. And we end up with a equals to 3. Alright. So even when the bracket's on the other side, no matter what, do the brackets first. So let's do that again. So 2m plus 5 equals to 3m take away 3. Now we highlight the pronumeral on both sides because that's our target. We're going to remove this to that side. Don't forget there's a plus here. So we're going to minus 3m from both sides. We end up with, now look at this, 2m take away 3m is actually negative 1m. Alright, now we're going to move the plus 5 there by minusing it. And then finally we have negative m equals negative 8. Now, if you just end up with negative m equals negative 8, you're basically dividing both sides by negative 1. Another quick way to think about it, if the pronumeral has a negative, just swap the signs of everything. So that means this negative m will become positive m, and this negative 8 will become positive 8. If that was positive 8, it would become negative 8. So all you have to do is just swap the negative, and that'll be your answer. Alright, let's look at question 4 now. So we end up with a few more grouping symbols. So what if we have brackets on both sides? Well, the first thing you do is indeed the brackets on both sides at the same time. Alright, so we go here, 5p. 5 times negative 2, which is negative 10. Here we go 4p, 4 times p. And then 4 times 2, so plus 8. Highlight the pronumeral parts. We're going to minus 4p from both sides to get p minus 10 equals 8. And then we're going to add 10 to both sides to get p equals 18. So as you can see, it's not that much different. You just have to expand brackets and then do the rest. So let's look at the second example here. We're going to expand the brackets again. And I'm ignoring this for now. Just expand the brackets first. So we get 6 plus 3m equals 10 minus 5m plus 6m. Now, if it's on the same side, some pronumerals, you should collect like terms first. Always collect like terms before swapping things from both sides, because it will make things easy for you. Now, when you're in a state like this, now we consider that there are two pronumerals on both sides. So in order for me to remove this m to this side, I'm going to minus m. So we get 6 plus 2m equals 10. And then here, I'm removing this positive 6 to the other side by minusing 6. So we end up with 2m equals to 4. Divide both sides by 2. M equals to 2. And there we have that. Moving on. So more bracket expanding, and you can see here we've got brackets on the same side here. Well, same deal. Start with that. We get 2m plus 6 plus 5m plus 10 equals 23. Now, this is where the collecting like terms is very important. Collect the like terms first. Okay, so we end up with 7m plus 16 equals 23. And now we've got a straightforward equation. 7m equals 7. And then finally, divide both sides by 7. M equals to 1. And there we have it. Let's do the second example here. Expand the brackets always. So that's 4m plus 6 plus 3m minus 15 equals 5. And once again, collect like terms. So we end up with 7m minus 9 equals 5. And now we're going to add 9 to both sides by inverse operating it. And we get 7m equals 14. And then the final step, divide both sides by 7. M is equal to 2. Okay, now the red questions, they're the same as question 5. The only difference is there are negatives in the middle. All right, because obviously they know that negatives are a big weakness for students, but they shouldn't be. So let's see how we're supposed to tackle these questions. Again, do the eyebrows, multiply them into the brackets like this. We get 5 times m, which is 5m. We get 5 times 3, which is plus 15. Now this is where you need to be careful. We get 4 times m, which is 4m. And I'm going to write it without the symbols for now. And then we get 4 times 2, which is just 8. But this negative out the front swaps all the signs of the inside terms. And if you look, the m is positive and the 2 is positive. They have these positives in here. So to swap from positive to negative because of that negative, the answer will be minus 4m minus 8 equals 10. So notice they're positive inside here, out here they're negative. And that's because this negative swaps the signs of anything inside of a bracket. You did this a few lessons back, so that's why the technique is being brought forward, because it appears in anything that you might do. All right, from here, collect like terms. So we have 5m take away 4m, and we have 15 take away 8. So that will give us m plus 7 equals 10. And then the last step, minus 7 from both sides. M equals to 3. Even though it's red, you can see it's actually very easy. The only tricky part is dealing with that negative. So let's do one more. We have 5 times 2a, 5 times 1. And then 2a, and then 2 times 4. All right, so with the first one, we get 10a plus 5. Now here, again, I'm going to ignore writing the signs. So we're just going to do 2 times a, which is 2a. And then 2 times 4, which is 8. Okay, now let's deal with the signs carefully. If we look here, the a is positive, so therefore it's just going to become negative 2a. But with the second term, the 4 is negative. And with that negative outside, 2 negatives will make it a positive. So therefore this becomes plus 8. And then that is equal to 2. And then from here, go back to what you were doing earlier, collect like terms. And the rest is history. So we get 8a plus 13 equals to 2. Minus 13 from both sides. We get 8a equals to negative 11. And then finally, divide by 8. And it doesn't matter if your answer's in a fraction. That's not a big deal. And there we have it. All right, so just go over the entire exercise. Exercise 903 and, what was it, 903 and 904? Yep. Exercises 903 and 904. Please complete both exercises and do every single question, because you need to be proficient in completing this topic. All right, apart from that, have a good day, guys. Assalamu alaikum.